Hello, my nomies. This week's car review is a Hyundai Genesis, and it was a Genesis of sorts for me. This was the first luxury car I've ever driven. I've been in luxury cars before, and it's pretty obvious because everything about luxury cars screams luxury and class and comfort, and that is the Hyundai Genesis that I drove. It will be very difficult to turn this car in tomorrow, but I have to because I've got to move on to my next review vehicle, which will be probably a non-luxury car. I'm not going to say I'm going to be disappointed because I haven't driven that car yet. So, knowing that I've never really driven a luxury car before, knowing that this really isn't the kind of car that I would necessarily lease or buy, though I would want to, don't get me wrong, once you drive luxury, it really is going to be kind of difficult to go back to non-luxury. It's kind of like going from a hard drive to an SSD or back again. You can't do it as easily as you think you could do it. This was a good experience. Stem to stern, I'm going to run through my review, beginning with my initial impressions. I saw the car, and instantaneously, it was screaming class. It is elegant inside and out. I sat in the car, and after a few adjustments of the seat, including with lumbar support back there, I was really comfortable. It felt like it was my car, even though it's obviously not my car. It was comfortable instantaneously. It felt very roomy. As far as I was concerned, and I even had my family in here, and they felt it was roomy as well for them. Leg room, arm room, everything, and we're not a huge family. But it was a very, very comfortable car, almost instantaneously for all of us. I like the fact that there was so much to look at. It was almost borderline overwhelming, but it didn't overwhelm me. I felt that the technology and the features and everything that the car had wasn't in my face. I felt like I could get to everything I needed to get to. I felt I could drive without any challenges. I didn't feel like any part of the car was necessarily something that I didn't want to see. In terms of driving the vehicle, it was powerful. Very, very powerful. Probably more power than I would ever possibly need, which is good if you want to get to 35 miles per hour like that, or 65 miles per hour like that, or you pass a lot of cars. It's not really something that I would look for in a car. I don't necessarily need that much power, but this has power, and you don't have to push the accelerator very hard to get to that power. I felt the braking was very, very smooth. I felt the acceleration was smooth once you learned how much pressure to apply to the pedal. It worked exceedingly well. It was easy to steer. It was easy to drive. It was very, very smooth. It was comfortable, and I think that's the best word I could use to describe the driving experience, and I wasn't the only person to say that. My passengers said that as well. I felt I had every option that I possibly needed at my fingertips, not just on the steering wheel outright, but certainly throughout the rest of the vehicle. I could flip between various options, a knob or a dial to navigate the nav system, or of course using the touch screen directly. I could see analog time or digital time. I could use the automatic shifter or manual shifting pedals that are on, or I guess behind the steering wheel. I have analog gauges or digital gauges. The heads-up display was fantastic. This car is one that I would say is incredibly teched out. This was one of the best heads-up displays I've ever seen. They packed everything into that, all the way to the speed limit. The current speed limit could be seen not just on the nav system, but on the dashboard itself and in the heads-up display. So if you're speeding, it's not because there's a lack of information. It is amazing how much usable information they put at your fingertips, or eye tips, really. You have so much to take in when you're driving that the more the vehicle does for you, the better off you are. And that's my perspective, but I felt like that was the case throughout, whether we're talking about the various screens in the dashboard itself that you could flip through, whether it's the radar cruise control, which I loved, whether it's the compass direction that's built into your rear view mirror, or it's the safety features of letting you know that, hey, there's a car in your blind spot, the auto dimming features of the mirrors. This was so incredibly powerful, yet so incredibly accessible. That to me is a huge win in terms of technology in the car, and that's not something that you always see. So you have various options. It's A lot to take in, but very, very accommodating in terms of how they designed the features in this particular car. The nav system is something that I'm always interested in using. It was above average. It was very responsive. It had everything that I would possibly need in a nav system. Quick to navigate, relatively responsive, and I think a nav system that anybody would want in their car. I certainly didn't get a chance to try everything in the nav system, but it was more than ample. If I had to give it a grade, I would probably say it was a solid B or even an A- in terms of my experience with the nav system. Good technology. It seemed like it was relatively newer compared to other nav systems out there, and that is probably the primary technology that people interface with in vehicles these days, that nav system. It is almost a necessity as far as I'm concerned, and certainly I would expect it to be in a luxury class car. We played with the sound a bit. That was fun. It is a clean sound in this car because it was combined with a very, very, very quiet ride. Smooth ride, quiet ride, so that of course made the sound stand out even more, and we tried a variety of music and even talk, and we really, really enjoyed the sound. But I'm not an audiophile, much like I'm not a car file. The entire roof in this car is a window, and that's amazing. It is epic. I've never described a roof window as epic, but it's like double, like the entire roof is a window. And of course you could close the shade there, and speaking of shades, you also have pull-up shades in the back seats and on your rear windshield as well. I used them all, especially when Jedi was in the car and it was sunny outside, unlike today during the time that I'm reviewing this vehicle. But those types of features are really the type of features that I was kind of expecting in this kind of car. I expected them to kind of go over the top with luxury, and that's exactly what happened. I was very, very happy with that. It's going to be disappointing for me to find myself in a car that has a regular sized moonroof or sunroof, but it's bound to happen. I appreciated the warning sounds. I talked about some of the features that I liked in relation to security, but it would let me know when I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing. Apart from going over the speed limit, it did not warn me about that, but I don't really speed, so it's not usually an issue for me. I appreciated the comprehensive proximity detectors. It would let me know if I was about to hit something in the garage, or possibly even something if I was parking the car. It was never an issue. The integrated backup camera is pro. Not only would it adapt those lines that would warn you if you're about to hit something, depending on which way you were turning, but you could also press a button to go to a top-down view. So if you were backing into something, the camera basically, it must do this, it pans down. So you have a top-down view. I'd never seen something like that before, and it was very, very cool. Never really used it or needed to use it, but it was like one of those nice options to have, just in case, if you're backing up and you didn't want to hit something behind you. This was a superior vehicle compared to a lot of the vehicles that I've driven, but again, it is a luxury class car. I don't need to remind you of that. This was a superior tech package. There's a feature called Blue Link, which allows you to turn on geofencing options, get speed alerts, send out SOS. You could also have remote access. It's not really a feature that I explored in the car. It's nice to have, and if I were to have the car for longer than a week, I probably would have dived into it a little further. It just shows the deeper level of integration that Hyundai has made with your regular tech lifestyle, like your smartphone that you might have on you at any given moment, and the car that you drive. It really does its best to bridge the gap between the car and the rest of your life using technology. That's a feature they call Blue Link, and I believe it requires a subscription for activation. I appreciated the fact that the trunk has a button that you could press to open or close. It's a very smooth motion. Not that that's an issue in other cars, but it's like one of those finer points, those finishing touches that Hyundai put on the car to make it a luxury type of experience. The radar cruise control, you already know, is a huge win for me. I use that all the time. The dials that are available at my fingertips are very, 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 very easy to use, very accessible. I've mentioned that before already in this review, but I think that's very, very important to underscore. The amount of technology, the amount of features that they throw at you, the more you have a chance or a propensity of getting confused and overwhelmed, but they didn't do that with the execution. It's not the idea, it's the execution, and I think Hyundai executed very well on this car. Perfect memory seat adjustment options, which was an issue has become an issue, really, when we're a single-car family at this point. We're only driving one car per review, and when Diana changes the seat to accommodate her body, I have to go in and change it again. And that's just another finishing touch. It's really a car full of finishing touches. It's a good car. It's an amazing car. So who is this car for? Spare no expense mentality, people. I have money. I need a good car. I don't care how much money it costs. It must be amazing. That type of person is probably going to love this car. If you want power and class, because I think you can get class, and I think you can get power, and I think you can get them both. Well, this is a car that has both power and class. And if you don't believe that mileage is an issue for you, because let's face it, if you're buying a luxury class car, the chances of you complaining about gas prices are probably not going to be all that high. The mileage on this car was not amazing. You had the gauge to show you how much your mileage was, at least on average, depending on how you were driving, or how long you were driving, or where you were driving, or how fast, etc. But that's really more of an issue for who this car is not for. If you're looking for a compact car, if you're looking for an economy vehicle, if you're just a casual driver, chances are this car is going to be overkill in more ways than one. For my first Hyundai experience, I give them an absolute huge, luxurious thumbs up. It was epic. So here's to having a variety of experiences to better translate them for you. Hopefully I helped you in being able to make a decision about possibly getting this car, or at least letting you know what I think about this car. Thank you for your kind attention. If I missed anything about the car, it was not intentional. I will be happy to follow up in comments if you want me to address something specific that I did not address in this car review video that I just recorded. Just let me know. Thanks again for remembering to like, comment, share, subscribe, and at this point, I'm going to leave you to your own devices.